Alright, today we have a 1995 Lexus ES 300 we're going to do a tune-up on. The customer had it checked out at another shop and they told her that she needs new spark plugs and some new coil packs. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that for them. We got all our parts from autopartsdirecttoyou.com. They save us a bunch of money on the parts. So we'll go ahead and start tearing into it. Alright, we're going to get started. The spark plug coils and spark plugs are all hidden at this time. 3 of them are underneath this cover. The other 3 are back underneath the upper intake manifold, so that has to come off as well. We're going to start by pulling this cover off. Okay, here you can see the 3 front coil packs. Basically just unclip them and unbolt them and pull them right off. Alright, this is a pretty common problem on these cars. You can see the inside of this connector just fell right apart when I pulled it off. That one's the same. And that one too. You see the pieces of it here. So we're going to go ahead and we'll get some new connectors and we'll show you how to put those on as well. You do not want to try to reuse that. That'll just cause problems down the road. Alright, so while we're waiting for the connectors to show up, we're going to go ahead and pull out the 3 coil packs in the front here. Once you get those bolts off, you just pull them straight out. So go ahead and pull out your 3 spark plugs. You can see it's in pretty rough looking condition. It's got a lot of carbon buildup on it. Just looks generally old. Alright, we've got our brand new NGK Platinum spark plugs. This car originally had platinum plugs, so we're going to reuse platinum. So we've got these and they're all set up, ready to go right out of the box. And when you put these in, you don't want to just drop them in the hole, because when they hit the base, it can actually close the gap on the spark plug. So you want to put them in your spark plug socket first, and then carefully get it started by hand. You generally want to give it about another half turn. It's about between a half and 3/4 of a turn, and that makes sure that sealing washer squishes real good to the head and it makes a good seal. So we'll do that with these other 2. Okay, we have our 3 spark plugs in. On the front 3, we're going to go ahead and reuse the 3 original coils. They look in okay shape. If it does turn out they have a problem too, they're easy to get to. So the customer wanted to start with only 3 ignition coils, so we're going to start with the back 3 since they're the hard ones to get to. Now we have our 3 new spark plugs and we got our ignition coils back on. Next step, we're going to get our new connectors that we ordered in, and we're going to go ahead and replace these. Okay, now because the connectors just fell apart on the inside, see, here's our new one versus the old one. This white plastic piece that's sticking out of the connector is actually what holds the wire in place. And since it's missing on this, these wires should just pull right out the back of this connector. Now you want to keep note of how these wires are positioned in here. You'll see the black and orange one is on the top and the pink one's on the bottom when holding the connector like so. So we'll go ahead and just pull right out. Set our old broken one aside and feed it into the new connector. They'll give a little snap as they click in. Once you do that, press that white piece in. And now it's all solid and just like original. Now that should snap right onto your coil and you have a good tight connection again. So we'll repeat that with the other two. We have 3 secure coil connections now. The front half is completely done. Next we're going to start on the back ones, which are quite a bit more complicated because we got to pull this intake manifold off. What we'll do is start by pulling off this air filter housing, and the hoses go into that. That's a big problem. I just noticed that the intake hose is split. That's actually a big issue on these cars. When that happens, it messes up the amount of airflow that the mass airflow meter reads. That was actually the sensor that this plugged into here. When that's split open, the computer doesn't really know how much air is going into the engine, and it will cause all kinds of drivability problems. So we're going to have to see if we can't track one of those down for this customer. Right there you can see where it's split. What happens, these rubber hoses over time, they get brittle, and from the motor flex, and they eventually will tear at their weak point right there. So we're gonna have to see if we can't get another one. Okay, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the throttle body off. Rather than taking it off with the intake, there's coolant hoses that go to it and all kinds of connectors. So we're just gonna leave the throttle body in the car while we take the intake off. Now if you're careful with it, you can reuse the gasket that's in there, as long as it doesn't break when you pull it apart. We have the throttle body disconnected. Next I'm going to disconnect. There are 2 bolts. They're pretty tough to see, but they're on the go into the EGR tube. I'm going to disconnect those 2. Okay, we've got our EGR tube disconnected, our throttle body disconnected. Next thing to do is just take off all the nuts that hold the intake actually to the lower part of it. And there's a couple bolts on the back here that hold brackets on. We'll go ahead and take those off as well. Now we've got all the brackets on the back here disconnected, the actual bolts up front disconnected, all our lines and hoses and the throttle body. Now the intake should just come right off. There we go. And there's one hose I missed. Let's see. One little. There we go. Okay. Now you can see on the back here, we've got 3 more coils. There's a good chance these connectors are going to fall apart too. Well, not yet, but the little locking tab is broken on the top. Yeah, that one as well. We'll go ahead and change these connectors anyway. You can Okay. Before we do that, we'll go ahead and replace the 3 spark plugs and coils on the back here. Now these coils we got from autopartsdirecttoyou.com. They're from a company called Standard Motor Products. This is their Intermotor brand, or line of parts. Most of these parts are actually original equipment parts. I think these are going to be the same. Yep, you can see right on the top it even says Toyota, made in Japan. So this is a brand new. This is exactly what you would get if you went to the dealer. That's why these Intermotor parts are such good quality, and they're actually pretty good price, especially when you get them from Auto Parts Direct to You. So we'll go ahead and install our new coils on the back here. All right, so we got our 3 back spark plugs in. We got our 3 new coils on. Next, we're going to replace these connectors. All you have to do is take a little screwdriver, pry this white piece out of here. Once you do that, oh, it's kind of falling apart anyway. But just like the front ones. Just pull out the wires. Notice the black and orange stripes on the side towards the connector. Alright, we now have all our new connectors on their new coils. All we got to do now is put the intake manifold back on. All right, for this air hose that ripped, we have one ordered. It's going to take a couple days to come in. So temporarily, we were able to just seal that crack up with electrical tape. You just wrap it on there really tight and do it a bunch of times, and it'll be a sufficient temporary fix. You don't want to leave it like this. Eventually that tape will break down. But for the time being, it's fine like that, and the customer will be able to drive the car until the other part comes in. So we're just going to keep going and keep putting everything back on. We're going to give her one little more check to make sure we got all the vacuum lines reconnected, all the electrical plugs, and I found one. That's why you want to do the double check, make sure you have them all on there.